You believe you understand the nature of divine power, the hierarchy of ancient leadership, the preordained roles within the tapestry of sacred history. You are wrong. Close your eyes. Feel the grit of dust beneath your sandals, the oppressive weight of a Canaanite yoke on your neck. The air itself is thick with despair, not merely from the sun-baked earth, but from the spiritual drought that has gripped the land of Israel for generations. The clatter of 900 iron chariots echoes not just in the valleys, but in the very marrow of your bones, a constant reminder of Sisera's brutal dominion. Your fields are plundered, your roads unsafe, and the altars of your ancestors lie desolate, replaced by the profane groves of Baal and Ashtoreth. But in this epoch of utter desolation, when the chosen people had abandoned their covenant and their very spirit seemed broken, how could the Almighty allow such subjugation? More profoundly, how could deliverance emerge not from a king, not from a seasoned warrior, but from a woman, a prophetess, a judge who sat beneath a palm tree, dispensing wisdom and receiving the unvarnished decree of the Most High? Was this a test of faith, a reordering of divine expectation, or something far more intricate, a revelation about the very heart of God's justice and his unconventional champions? So, as we prepare to uncover these timeless truths, if you find value in this journey, consider leaving a like to support the channel. It makes a huge difference, and I urge you, share your own insights on this profound mystery in the comments below. What does Deborah's rise truly reveal about the nature of divine intervention? Now, still your heart and open your mind. The veil of history is about to be torn away. Our revelation begins. For 2 decades, the land of Zebulun and Naphtali lived under the suffocating shadow of Jabin, the king of Hazor, whose military might was personified by the ruthless general Sisera. His reign was not merely one of taxation and tribute. It was a systematic dismantling of Israel's spirit, a cruel strangulation of their very identity. You witnessed the desolation. Roads abandoned, the highways empty, forcing weary travelers to navigate circuitous, dangerous paths. The wells, once vibrant gathering places, are now silent for fear of ambush by marauding bands. The sound of singing at the watering places, a symbol of communal life and freedom, has been replaced by the mournful cries of suffering. This was a period of profound theological crisis, an era where the terms of the Mosaic covenant, so clearly laid out generations prior, had been flagrantly violated. The people had forsaken their God, delving into the abominations of Canaanite fertility cults, raising altars to Baal and Asherah, effectively inviting the very judgment their scriptures warned against. The oppression was not merely an act of war. It was a divine consequence, a bitter harvest reaped from seeds of apostasy. Into this crucible of despair, a solitary figure emerges, not from the ranks of the priesthood, nor from the male eldership that had seemingly lost its way, but from the quiet authority of a woman known as Deborah, the wife of Lapidoth. She was a prophetess, a beacon of divine light in a time of profound darkness, and she judged Israel from beneath the shade of her famous palm tree, situated between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. You can envision her there, not seated on a throne of earthly power, but on raw earth, accessible yet commanding, her words resonating with the weight of revelation. People from all corners of Israel, desperate for justice and divine guidance, would journey to her, seeking resolution for their disputes and wisdom for their troubled souls. Her pronouncements were not merely legal judgment, they were divine edicts, for the Spirit of the Lord rested powerfully upon her, making her a direct conduit to the Most High. It is a profound testament to the depth of Israel's spiritual decline that such a radical shift in leadership was necessary, forcing the Almighty to raise up a messenger from outside the conventional male power structures to stir a complacent and fearful nation. One day, under the very shadow of that sacred palm, Deborah sent forth a summons for Barak, the son of Abinoam, from Kadesh Naphtali. The message she delivered was not her own, but a direct command from Yahweh, the God of Israel. Has not the Lord, the God of Israel, commanded you, "Go, gather your men at Mount Tabor, taking 10,000 from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun, and I will draw out Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Wadi Kishon, and there I will give him into your hand." You hear the divine imperative in her voice, unwavering and absolute. This was not a suggestion, but a decree, a promise of victory against an enemy armed with the most formidable military technology of the age, 900 chariots of iron. Historians and archaeologists confirm the strategic dominance these chariots conferred. Iron was a rare and valuable commodity, and its application in military engineering gave the Canaanites an almost insurmountable advantage, particularly on the open plains where chariots could maneuver freely, trampling infantry and scattering formation. For Barak, a seasoned warrior, the sheer audacity of this command must have been staggering. To confront such an overwhelming force, especially in terrain favoring the enemy, seemed suicidal by all conventional military standards. Barak's response, etched into the annals of sacred history, speaks volumes about the human condition when faced with seemingly impossible divine directive. He replied, not with an immediate, resolute yes, but with a conditional pledge. If you will go with me, I will go, but if you will not go with me, I will not go. You feel the weight of his hesitation, the blend of trepidation, and perhaps a lingering human reliance on tangible assurances. Was this a lack of faith, or a pragmatic warrior's deep understanding of the overwhelming odds, seeking the prophetess's visible presence as a symbol of God's unwavering support? One is compelled to ask, what does it truly mean to trust in divine counsel when all earthly logic screams otherwise? Is faith merely passive belief, or is it an active, unwavering commitment to a vision that defies human understanding, a willingness to step into the unknown purely on the strength of a divine promise? For centuries, the faithful have wrestled with the question of whether Barak's condition was a moment of weakness or a profound recognition of the need for the Spirit's visible manifestation in leadership. Deborah's reply was immediate and unequivocal, sealing the destiny of the campaign even before it began. I will surely go with you. Nevertheless, the honor will not be yours on the journey you are taking, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hand of a woman. You stand witness to this pivotal moment, where the future of a nation hangs on a single choice, a single act of faith, and where the divine purpose is revealed to transcend all human expectation, destined to unfold in the most unexpected of ways and through the most unexpected of champions. You watch as the word spreads throughout the northern tribes, a flicker of hope igniting in hearts long dimmed by oppression. Barak, spurred by Deborah's unwavering resolve, begins to gather his forces. You see men from Naphtali and Zebulun, 10,000 strong, leaving their homes, their fields, their fear-laden existence to converge on the slopes of Mount Tabor. This is not a professional army, not a well-equipped, disciplined fighting force comparable to Sisera's elite. These are farmers, shepherds, ordinary men, armed perhaps with whatever implements they could fashion into weapons. Their courage drawn not from military training, but from a desperate faith reawakened by the prophetess's fire. Deborah accompanies Barak, her presence a living testament to Yahweh's commitment, her very essence a visible conduit of divine power. Can you imagine the murmuring in the camp, the anticipation, the trepidation, as they look down from the heights of Tabor, a strategic position offering a temporary advantage at the expansive plains of Jezreel below? This vast, flat terrain, known as the Valley of Megiddo or the Plain of Esdraelon, was the perfect theater for Sisera's iron chariots, allowing them maximum mobility and devastating impact against an infantry-based force. The choice of battleground, seemingly favoring the enemy, underscores the audacious faith demanded of Barak and the Israelites, a testament to the belief that the battle belonged not to the swift or the strong, but to the Lord. Sisera, arrogant in his overwhelming might, hears of the Israelite mobilization. He arrays his 900 iron chariots and all his mighty army at the Wadi Kishon, a riverbed that winds through the plain of Jezreel. You can almost feel the ground tremble under the weight of his war machines, the glint of iron blinding under the sun, the disciplined ranks of his infantry stretching as far as the eye can see. This was the pinnacle of Canaanite military technology, honed by generations of warfare designed to crush any resistance. Ancient texts and archaeological findings corroborate the formidable nature of chariot warfare in this era. These were not merely transport vehicles, but mobile firing platforms, often carrying archers and spearmen, capable of breaking formation, pursuing fleeing enemies, and instilling terror. The sheer psychological impact of such a force bearing down on unarmored foot soldiers would have been devastating. Sisera's confidence was not unfounded. By all human reckoning, the outcome of this engagement was a foregone conclusion, a swift and brutal suppression of a pathetic rebellion. You can sense the tension, the raw fear rippling through the Israelite ranks as they watch the enemy prepare to advance, their hearts pounding against their ribs, aware of the impossible odds. Then Deborah speaks. Her voice rings out, cutting through the fear, filled with divine authority. "Up! For this is the day in which the Lord has given Sisera into your hand. Does not the Lord go out before you?" It is a command and a promise, a divine catalyst for action. Barak, with 10,000 men, pours down from Mount Tabor. As the Israelites descend, something extraordinary, something utterly cataclysmic, begins to unfold. The heavens suddenly darken, not with the natural progression of clouds, but with an unnatural, swift onset. A torrential downpour begins, turning the dry plain into a churning quagmire. The Wadi Kishon, usually a shallow stream, swells rapidly, overflowing its banks, transforming the battlefield into a treacherous swamp. You see the immediate, devastating effect on Sisera's chariots. Their formidable wheels, designed for hard, dry ground, become clogged with mud, sinking deep into the mire. Their mobility, their greatest strength, is instantly annihilated. The iron, once a symbol of their superiority, becomes a fatal anchor, trapping the chariots and their riders. The Canaanite soldiers, clad in heavy armor, find themselves floundering in the rising waters, their movements impeded, their precision formations dissolving into chaos. This was no ordinary storm. It was an act of divine intervention, a weapon wielded by the Almighty Himself, precisely timed and strategically placed to nullify the enemy's technological advantage. Panic erupts among Sisera's forces. The well-ordered ranks are thrown into disarray as chariots become stuck, horses flounder, and men struggle against the elements. The very ground conspires against them. You witness the once proud Canaanite army, the terror of Israel, now collapsing into a terrified mob, struggling to escape the muddy embrace of the plain and the rising waters of the Kishon. This is the moment Israel has prayed for, a moment of divine vindication. Barak's forces, though lightly armed, find their courage ignited by this miraculous turn of events. They charge into the chaos, no longer facing an impenetrable wall of iron, but a struggling, disoriented enemy. The slaughter is immense. The biblical account states, "And the Lord rooted Sisera and all his chariots and all his army before Barak with the edge of the sword." Not one chariot, not one man of Sisera's vast army is left standing. The very landscape, the natural elements, fought alongside Israel, turning the tables in a brutal, decisive manner that left no doubt as to the source of their victory. As the last remnants of his army are cut down, Sisera, the architect of 20 years of Israelite suffering, abandons his magnificent chariot. He leaps down and flees on foot, not towards his own city, not towards the remnants of Jabin's power, but towards the territory of the Kenites, a nomadic tribe, traditionally neutral, who had maintained a precarious peace with Jabin. You see him, a powerful general, now a solitary, desperate figure, stripped of his dignity and his might, seeking refuge in the most desperate of circumstances. One is compelled to contemplate the nature of divine judgment. Is it merely a swift, overwhelming force, or is it a meticulous, precise calibration of circumstances, a weaving of natural phenomena with human action to achieve a specific, righteous outcome? For centuries, theologians and military strategists have debated whether the storm was a pre-existing, whether pattern divinely intensified, or a miraculous creation ex nihilo, perfectly timed to expose the vulnerability of Sisera's seemingly invincible chariots. Regardless, the outcome was undeniable. The chariots of Canaan, the symbol of their invincibility, were rendered useless, not by superior Israelite weaponry, but by the very hand of God, leaving Sisera a fugitive, hunted and humbled, his empire of terror shattered by an unforeseen, heavenly intervention. You follow Sisera's desperate flight, a solitary figure now, stripped of his grandeur, his iron chariots mired irrevocably in the treacherous mud of the Kishon. He runs until he reaches the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. The Kenites, a distinct clan related to Moses through his father-in-law Jethro, had maintained a treaty of peace with King Jabin of Hazor, a pact Sisera undoubtedly believed would guarantee his safety. You see him approach the tent, exhausted, vulnerable, seeking refuge from the relentless pursuit of Barak's victorious forces. Jael, seeing him, steps out to meet him, her face inscrutable. She offers him sanctuary, words of comfort, and the ultimate sign of hospitality in that culture. "Turn aside, my lord, turn aside to me, do not be afraid." She invites him into her tent, a place of inviolable privacy and presumed safety for women in that patriarchal society. He accepts his relief palpable, unaware of the profound and unexpected turn his destiny is about to take within those canvas walls. This moment, seemingly innocuous, is pregnant with the weight of divine judgment and the subversion of cultural norms. Inside the tent, Sisera, parched and weary, requests water. Jael, with an almost chilling composure, opens a skin of milk and gives him a drink, a richer, more substantial liquid that would induce drowsiness. He drinks deeply, his guard completely down. He then gives her a final instruction, a desperate plea for protection. Stand at the opening of the tent, and if anyone comes and asks you, "Is there anyone here?" you are to say no. He believed himself safe, concealed, and attended by a woman who, by all customary laws of hospitality and tribal alliance, would protect him. You watch as he lays down, succumbing to the fatigue of his flight and the calming effects of the milk. He falls into a deep sleep, vulnerable and utterly helpless. But Jael's intentions were far from those of a mere hostess. Her loyalty, it would seem, transcended the Canaanite treaty with Jabin. Perhaps she recognized the greater divine purpose at play, the liberation of Israel from decades of brutal oppression. Perhaps she understood that true peace could only come through the complete eradication of this tyrannical force. While Sisera slept, Jael took a tent peg and a hammer. Not a weapon of war, but an everyday implement of her nomadic life, a tool of domesticity. You can almost hear the soft, rhythmic sound of her preparation, the quiet determination in her movement. She approached the sleeping general, the man who had terrorized a nation, who had 900 iron chariots at his command, now defenseless before a woman and her simple instruments. With a strength born of divine resolve, she drove the tent peg through his temple and into the ground below. It was a swift, decisive, and utterly fatal blow. The very ground he sought refuge upon became his tomb. The most feared general of Canaan, who had brought an entire nation to its knees, met his end not on the battlefield, not by the sword of a warrior, but by the hand of a woman, in the most intimate and unexpected of settings. You are witness to the ultimate humiliation of a tyrant, his vast power rendered meaningless by the smallest, most unassuming of instruments in the hands of one chosen by Providence. Soon after Barak arrived, still in pursuit of Sisera, Jael went out to meet him, a quiet triumph in her demeanor. "Come," she said, "and I will show you the man whom you seek." She led him into her tent, and there he saw Sisera motionless, with the tent peg piercing his skull. The prophecy of Deborah, that the honor of the victory would not be Barak's, but would fall to the hand of a woman, was fulfilled in its starkest, most shocking detail. The victory was complete, leaving no room for human boasting, only for the awe-inspiring recognition of divine sovereignty. The Song of Deborah and Barak, recorded in Judges 5, is one of the oldest and most profound poetic passages in the Hebrew Bible, a powerful testament to this victory. It celebrates not only the defeat of Sisera, but also Jael's courageous act. Most blessed of women be Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, most blessed of tent-dwelling women. It details the vivid imagery of Sisera's death, contrasting his expectation of plunder with his sudden demise, and even evokes the lament of Sisera's mother, waiting in vain for her son's return, wondering why his chariots were so long in coming. This ancient hymn solidifies Jael's place as a divinely appointed instrument of justice, alongside Deborah. The defeat of Sisera and the destruction of Jabin's army marked a profound turning point for Israel. The grip of Canaanite oppression was broken, and the land knew peace for 40 years. This era, under the continued guidance of Deborah, was characterized by renewed spiritual vitality and stability, a time for Israel to recover its identity and re-establish its covenant with Yahweh. The story of Deborah and Jael challenges conventional notions of warfare, leadership, and heroism. It emphasizes that divine power often operates outside human expectation, utilizing the weak to confound the strong, empowering the marginalized to execute justice against the mighty. One is compelled to ask, in moments of profound societal crisis and moral drift, does the divine always seek out those who are humble and unexpected, precisely to demonstrate that the ultimate victory belongs not to human might, but to the will of the Almighty? For centuries, this narrative has echoed through the corridors of faith, a timeless reminder that when human systems fail and courage falters, God often raises up the most unlikely of champions to fulfill his righteous purposes, leaving an indelible mark on history that transcends the battlefield and reverberates through the very soul of humanity. The victory was not just over a tyrant, but over doubt, over despair, over the very notion that human limitations could constrain divine will. The echoes of Deborah's prophecy and Jael's hammer reverberate through the millennia, a testament to the unyielding hand of divine justice and the audacious spirit of those chosen to wield. You have witnessed how a nation, utterly broken and adrift, was not merely saved, but resurrected by an unexpected confluence of prophetic wisdom and courageous action. This narrative shatters the narrow confines of human expectation, revealing that heroism wears many faces, and that the most profound shifts in history often emerge from the very margins where conventional power dares not look. For 40 years, the land knew peace, a peace forged in the thunder of divine intervention and sealed by the unwavering faith of two women. This was more than a military victory. It was a spiritual triumph, a reclamation of Israel's covenant identity, a vivid demonstration that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob watches over his people, even when they stray, and will raise up champions from the most unexpected of places to fulfill his righteous decree. The story of Deborah and Jael is not merely an ancient tale. It is a timeless affirmation that the divine chooses its instruments with a wisdom that transcends all human logic, forever reminding us that in the grand tapestry of destiny, the smallest thread can hold the greatest power, and the quietest voice can unleash the most profound revolution.